I guess the sources of funding are entirely different depending on the industry that you're in. I mean, there's a lot of companies can bootstrap their way to success, but it takes a lot longer. Whereas if it's very capital intensive, I mean, you need cash up front very much to get that business up and running and going. Um, just kind of high level. Let's take a look at a small, let's say, manufacturing company that wants to get out the gate. Um, there's probably a different evolution of funding that they require to get out the gate and get going. But let's kind of take a look at like a 5-year process for a company and just say they're going from a one-man operation and ultimately they're going to be a 25-person operation or something like that. Just to your take on how funding would come into play and different types of funding. Would you be able to kind of assess that and tell that, or is that also a how long is a piece of string question?
No, I think I can break it down into some real life examples. Something about being in this space for 30 years, it gives you a few stories to go back to. And I'm thinking about a young man who had the foresight to go into the embroidery business. It was not new rocket science. It wasn't anything particularly revolutionary, except that the technology was changing. And the pattern business, whereas used to patterns were a long string of plastic scrolls that would tell the needle where to go, it now became a computer program that told the needle where to go and what color to add in. So you could make something cheaper, change the pattern, and set up a pattern for a lot less money. So he spent, I think, $15,000 on a computer program and computer that would drive an embroidery machine, put it in his garage space, like where you're sitting, and went out and developed a small customer list with price. He could produce these cheaper because, you know, he had very little overhead. He had one machine. He was paying his credit card bill and doing this part-time in the evenings and on weekends. And he could compete with price because that was his advantage. He turned that into 6 machines with some part-time labor and turned that into a 2,000 square foot industrial commercial space with 24 machines. But he grew exponentially from a position of strength, and it all started with a $12,000 credit card charge.
Wow. So he starts with credit card, and then obviously he starts going. Now, did he bootstrap the whole way through that, or is that did he go out for different?
No. At the point he went from the 4 machines to 12, I believe he got his first bank loan. It wasn't a bank loan; it was a lease, because leases are much simpler for equipment. They are often affiliated with the company that's manufacturing the equipment. So he was able to get a higher amount of credit, less down payment, so he keeps his capital reserve put into labor, and got a salesman, of course, to go out and get more accounts. And he just built a very nice little business, but borrowed when he had to for growth rather than for startup. That's another key difference. It's easier to borrow for growth than it is from when you're standing still and needing money to get launched.